All right, joining us now on this very special episode, pleased to welcome Pat Bostick to the Solid Verbal, Senior Associate Athletic Director of Development and Major Gifts at Pitt, notably also the Pitt football radio color analyst. Mr. Bostick, how are you?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Ty, you left out the headline here. You left out another part of his bio and why we're having him on the show. In the all-time most important, most consequential matchup between Pat quarterbacks, we have the winner of the duel. We do indeed. We do indeed. That was sort of what precipitated this whole thing. So here is the setting. All right. Backyard Brawl 2007, December 1st. You're in Morgantown. You're a 28-point dog against the number 2 team in the land, West Virginia, led by Pat White. Steve Slayton's on that. That was a loaded West Virginia team. They're 10-1. You are in this awkward position, I guess, where you really got nothing to lose. What is your thought process? What is the build up to that game? What does it look like? What is Coach Wanstead telling you guys? Like, where are you at as a player going into that one?
You know, it was nothing to lose would probably be an understatement. You know, we were reeling a little bit. We lost to South Florida the week before. We got beat by them pretty good. That was kind of the beginning of their little run. And, we had a good young tailback named Shady McCoy, a pretty solid defense. Our middle linebacker, Scott McKillop, went on to be an All-American. And that game really was his not coming out party, but validation of that. He was terrific against them. But I think for our seniors, they knew they weren't playing in a bowl game. And that was guys like Mike McGlynn, Jeff Otah, who was a first-round pick. This was their bowl game, and it was a chance to play spoiler. And all week, that was the attitude. We had a lot of alumni come in, talk to our team about how to handle going down to Neyland Stadium and keep your helmet on the sideline, all the things they told you to do to avoid getting, nickels and dimes thrown at your head. So you kind of felt – I was a freshman, so I coming from South Central PA, Pitt, West Virginia wasn't a big part of, my upbringing, but I found out really quick how serious it was. And I can remember, walking out to practice and Coach Wanstead would play Country Roads every day as we were doing stretch, and that got really annoying. But for me, I knew that I would probably have more of a role in losing the game than winning it. So my job was to go out there and not lose the game. Because, we knew how talented they were. I mean, that West Virginia team was national championship caliber. We just happened to go in there and play the game of our lives, really on defense, and Shady was great. And, really didn't believe that we had a shot until that second half when things just started going our way. And even despite a couple phantom holding calls, we came out on top. And, that game changed certainly my life, but I think the ripple effect of what it did to college football is what makes it, not only the most probably unanticipated victory, but the most consequential one, in that series history.
So, I mean, you're bearing a lead here as well because you're a freshman. You probably were not, beginning of the season. You're not thinking that you're going to be starting games. You're not going to be starting games at the end of the year. How did you end up getting thrust into that position?
Yeah, so I came in. I was recruited, pretty heavily, and Pitt decided on Pitt. Just fell in love with the city, and it wasn't too far from home, but far enough away that mom and dad had to call to come see me. But Billy Stahl was our quarterback. He got hurt in the opener against Eastern Michigan, and tore up his thumb. And I kind of went back and forth a little bit with Kevin Smith, who's actually playing Major League Baseball right now. He's been a catcher for the White Sox. He's with the Braves. But I started 8 games that year. My first start was at UVA. So that was hard. It was a really hard freshman year for me. And honestly, and I don't tell a lot of people this, but, had we not won that game in West Virginia, I didn't know if I wanted to come back to Pitt. It was just such a whirlwind of emotions. I could not wait for that season to be over. But as fate would have it, there was no way I wasn't coming back after –
Of course.
After being the quarterback for that game. And I think it's a big reason why I'm still here today and working at the school and doing what I do.
One of the insights you actually have because of that season, and this is across the entire sport, is school recruits heralded freshmen. Heralded freshman is expected to come in and immediately have command over a group of 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds. What is that like when that wasn't the plan? You weren't expected at the beginning to take over. Bill Stull was there. But in your mind, in your head, in your experience, why is that not the case basically every time as a freshman to come in and have that kind of command?
It's, at positions where, inherent athleticism is more of an advantage, receiver, skill positions, running back even, it's easy to come in and distinguish yourself. I think, the quarterback position, offensive line, where there's a mental adjustment as well as the physical maturity, as well as your emotional maturity is critical. It's harder to make that transition. And the pressure is real. And I felt that my first media day.
Right.
And then you walk into the locker room and, again, the guys I play with, my best friends in the world in high school, the guys that I played with in high school, and then I went to college and looked at those, they look different. They play different. The speed of the game is crazy. It's just, it's an adjustment it's the adjustment you make as a college student, right? Going away from home, doing your own laundry, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Add it to doing what you've always done, but having to raise your level immediately. And that doesn't always happen fast. Sometimes it happens slower for certain guys. There are some that are just, the Bryce Young and others, Caleb Williams, the guys that are just so good, they're ready for it. I wasn't, and I was forced to be.
Right.
And it caused me to grow up really fast and probably peak sooner than I wanted to. So I think coaches, the handlers of these young men and women these days, you need to be mindful of how much pressure you're putting on a young person to go in this situation because, you want it to be fun. And, now more than ever, this is a business, but you're still playing a game and you want to be able to enjoy it because that joy is going to carry you and push you through the work.
And sort of no matter what your career ended up being at Pitt, you mentioned the word joy. I assume the win over West Virginia, it's going to last forever in your mind. It's going to last forever in the minds of Pitt fans. What are the lasting impressions that you get from Pitt fans who come up to you, from West Virginia fans who come up to you, from West Virginia players who are like, I swear to God, Pat? Like, what has been the last, decade and a half been like for you just with regard to reactions from that game?
Yeah, I mean, I could walk through a grocery store and hear 13-9. It's awesome. I mean, it's we were 5-7 team that didn't make a bowl game that year, but that game sticks out. I got 2 pictures of it in my office. Here's one of them, the game of the century,
of course,
right there. And I think part of it, right, was we kept our rival from reaching the pinnacle of college football.
Mm-hmm.
That environment's so hard to win in. I saw Pat McAfee used to come up, and he was obviously from Plum, and he would come and kick in. He probably had more of an impact on that game than anybody on our roster, to be honest.
Sure.
With the field goals he missed, but talking to Pat, it's like that game changed that program. Rodriguez goes to Michigan. Terrell Pryor was a big recruit. Where was he going to go? People were saying it was West Virginia to play football and basketball. So the ripple effect, and that's something that I can't say I feel bad for West Virginia because they certainly weren't welcoming to me when we came in there or to us. But when you look at how good that team was, with Pat White and Slayton and Noel Devine and just on and down the list, it's like, objectively, you're like, yeah, that team deserved to play for a national championship, but a 4-7 Pitt team said no, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned earlier how the game changed your life. You're still at Pitt. You're still, a very prominent part of the Pitt athletic program. But take us back to December 2nd, right? So you beat West Virginia. You are this freshman. The stat line. Look, we don't got to talk about the stat line. You won the game. You won the game, and you scored the only touchdown in the game, which was meaningful. But how does I guess, your life as a student immediately changed just as you're walking around campus the second you get back to Pitt?
Yeah, I mean, we got back that night, and I remember vividly. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the back with Mike McGlynn, who's still a good friend, played in the league for 7 or 8 years. And the whole senior offensive line group was singing Country Roads as we were going through Fort Pitt tunnels coming into the city. Like, that was their – and we got into campus in Oakland, and, the tradition in Morgantown is to burn couches. Well, people in Oakland were burning couches. There were cars flipped over. It was a madhouse. And I was actually pretty ill. I was sick. I mean, I had a pretty bad ear infection and sinus infection that night. So I was kind of hopped up on some stuff. And I remember I got back and – I remember getting into campus off the bus and just I was like, all I want to do, honestly, is go to my room, give me a 6-pack. I want to have a few and go to sleep. Like, I really don't want to, the last thing I need is music blaring in my ear. I just had 60 or 70,000 fans yelling for a while. But, you wake up the next morning and it sets in that, you're a part of history. And no matter what I was going to do the rest of my career, I wanted to do more. Don't get me wrong. I played another game in 08 at Notre Dame that I'm really proud of. 4 overtime win.
Yep.
The stat line was a little better, but there were still 3 picks on it, so it wasn't great. But you can't ever take that away from us. And again, I'm shocked that it's lasted this long. Even winning an ACC championship last year, we've had a couple of upsets since then. Clemson, Miami in 2017. Nothing will ever top that. And on campus, it's just it's different now because they haven't played the game in so long. And this will be the first year in September that Pitt and West Virginia have played since 2011. So they don't know that rivalry. But to Pitt fans, man, that whole team it's revered.
Well, one of the reasons that we're doing this whole conversation is because with it being St. Patrick's Day, we looked at this game, and not just you as a prominent Pat, but Pat White. You mentioned Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee, yeah.
What was your impression of your counterpart going into that football game? Because we're talking a little bit about Pat White here, but Pat White for a while was the all-time leading rusher as a quarterback in NCAA history. He obviously went on to the NFL where he played a lot of Wildcat and was used in various capacities. But just looking across the field, I remember as a fan watching that game, just how freaking dominant he was just as a dynamic athlete.
I mean, he was a freak. He could, if we don't knock him out of that game, I forget who it was. It might have been Greg Romeus or Tommy Duhart. Tommy recovered a fumble, but we knocked him out of the game. And that changed everything because I think it was Jarrett Brown was his backup, and he could run. He scored a touchdown, I think, or didn't score a touchdown, but he had a couple of nice runs in that game. But he wasn't Pat White, and the combination. Slayton didn't do anything in that game, and you realize, back then, Rodriguez's spread was so ahead of the curve. The zone read was becoming, RPO wasn't a thing, but the zone read was the RPO of then. And what that dynamic of Pat being able to pull the ball down at any point and either take it out the back door or design runs or pull it and then throw it was the triple option backed up in the shotgun. And when he got knocked out of that game, we had a much better shot to win, obviously. But I had tremendous respect for him. Watching the highlights of the game, just looking at his face, not being able to be in there, and then he went it back in at the end. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, here goes fate now. Here comes the hero. And he wasn't able to get it done with a couple last second heaves, but that doesn't take anything away from the career he has. And he ran all over us in 2006. I remember watching that film as a freshman, just him running on the sideline. I think he did like a little roar on camera or something on ESPN that I remember seeing. So he was definitely the better quarterback in that matchup and always will be.
Sure.
But I guess this Pat got the last laugh.
Final question on the topic continued of Pat's. The current and now longtime head coach of the Pitt Panthers is another Pat in Pat Narduzzi. Yeah. So give us something that nobody or very few people know about Pat Narduzzi, because publicly, he just seems sort of straightforward, by the book. There have been some great Pitt teams recently, players individually on both sides of the ball. But as a human, as a person, what is something that not too many people know about Pat Narduzzi?
I don't want to try to be cliche here, but I think when I think of Pat Narduzzi, I think of a builder. You know, his relationships with his players is outstanding. But you know, in my work in fundraising, you know, we almost have to hold him back from, hey, I haven't called so and so in a while. You know, what's going on? Like, or hey, like, who do you need me to call? I'm driving home. It's 9:30 at night. I'll call him.
Wow.
You know, and like, that's never stopped. He's just a complete ace in that regard. And it's you know, I'm thrilled for the success that program had last year and was building to. I think this year, you know, we're flying a little bit under the radar, and obviously Kenny Pickett not being there has a lot to do with that. But you know, with Keaton Slovis being on the squad now, and Nick Patty back, I think this team has a chance to repeat. I really do. The talent level they've had, but in terms of what people don't know about Pat, they see the guy that's brash defensive guy on the sideline, probably in the referee's ear a lot, pretty demonstrative. But you know, underneath that is a dude that really cares, that loves being here, and that takes great care of the people that love this program. And we're really lucky he's our coach, and he fits perfect.
Man, I was really hoping you were going to say, like, he is an undefeated foosball player. He is super into Martin Scorsese movies. He plays the bassoon. Like, there's no wrinkle beneath that surface of professionalism?
I mean, he's got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
He's a softy.
Sure.
He would be nowhere in life without his wife, Donna.
Same. I mean,
but there's no, this guy works from 5 o'clock in the morning till midnight.
Okay.
He's just... and like a lot of college coaches do. He's not rewriting the book on how to be a coach, but his son's a really good golfer, probably like a 2 handicap. Pat can barely swing it.
It's great.
They're both named Patrick, so
okay.
There's a little tidbit. Yeah, I got nothing there though. I got nothing.
Right, I was gonna say, I'm gonna give you an easier question then, because gotcha. you get what you see. You can't answer Permane Brothers. Where should I eat the next time I come to Pittsburgh and a Pitt game that is specifically a favorite of Pat Bostick?
I go to Serafino's down in Crafton.
Okay.
It's a little mom and pop Italian joint. You know, it's you know, it is, you know, they're 2 brothers, Joe and Dean Caliguire. Joe Caliguire owns it. The restaurant. Joe played at Temple. Dean was a lineman at Pitt.
Love it.
You walk in, you get, you know, either BYOB, it's BYOB. You have like a little, they give you like a little Dixie cup to drink your wine out of.
Love it.
They'll bring a pizza out as an appetizer, beans and greens, salad. And that's just the beginning. But you guys come in, you let me know, and I'll hook you guys up with Joey down there. That our football staff goes there a lot. You know, Kenny Pickett's been spotted there eating without his gloves on. So it's I would highly recommend that. Plus, it's got the Pitt flavor. A couple of Pitt helmets in there to give you the feel.
Wonderful. Well, again, his name Pat Bostick, forever part of college football lore. You can listen to his fine coverage every Saturday for the Pitt Panthers. Pat, thank you so much. We really appreciate this.
All right, boys. Thanks for having me.